Hello and welcome to the Inner Compass podcast. I am Victoria, founder of the Inner Compass Collective, and this is a space for high-achieving women who are at a crossroads, successful on paper, but sensing something deeper is calling. So if you're at a crossroads in your career or life, if you've outgrown something but you don't yet know what comes next, and you're craving direction that feels aligned instead of forced, then you are in the right place. And here we talk about identity shifts, self-trust, and defining your true north from your own inner compass so that you can consciously design your next chapter without abandoning success and abandoning yourself. Today I want to talk about what they are calling the Great Millennial Career Crisis and what I personally think about it. So they're calling it the Millennial Career Crisis as a widespread phenomenon driven by burnout, stagnant wages, and a broken trust in the traditional work hard, get promoted career path. After navigating the 2008 recession and pandemic-era layoffs, many millennials are facing immense financial strain, career stagnation, and a profound search for purpose beyond the corporate grind. All of this is true, and obviously I have been through it myself, but that disillusionment is what I would call it, really. It kicked off when I was about 26 years old, and back then it didn't feel like anyone around me had really clued, but now people are starting to move, people are starting to wake up to it. What I have an issue with is that this is being called a crisis. A crisis for corporate, sure, because you're kind of royally fucked if your millennials leave the workforce. But a lot of the rhetoric that I've been hearing about it or listening to is we have been lied to, we've been screwed over, we have these university debts, which like mine's still sitting there because I haven't been in Australia to pay the tax to pay it off, and nor do I have any bother to do that either. It's about what was mine, about 30 grand for degrees that, like, honestly, were pretty unnecessary. Then we get told to go into the traditional paths, which is what we all did. This is how you make the money, and then bam, swoop, all comes through this big change. So, 2008 recessions, pandemic era, these are things that swing in roundabouts throughout the history of humanity. But the big one coming is obviously the AI revolution, where a lot of these jobs that people have worked their asses off or paths are shifting and changing. And not only that, but the generation that are coming in underneath us already had clocked on to said lies and are not really coming into those traditional paths, and they're going more entrepreneurial. They're not really kind of buying into the same path that we did. And it's an interesting generational discussion to have, because is it Gen X before Millennial, where they did the same thing when you really look at it, but nothing really happened, nothing really kicked off. And you can pull all of this victim mindset of like, we've been screwed over, we've been lied to. I'm not going to say we weren't lied to, but literally everything on this planet is almost a lie. And we, in fact, are actually quite lucky, because we are of the age where we are midlife. You might be a little bit younger, you might even be past midlife. We don't know when our midlife is, but they call midlife around the late 30s and 40s. Now, they also used to term midlife crisis, and almost all people go through a midlife crisis. In fact, there's specific ages for it, between 38 and 42. And it's an interesting wording to call it a midlife crisis, because it is not a midlife crisis either. It's not a crisis. This is an awakening. That is what it is. It is no crisis. There is nothing victim about it. There is nothing wrong about it. It is a gift if you see it that way. And some people are going to double down on we're being screwed over and wanting to hold tight to their paths, even though, because they've invested all of this time and all of this money into them, even though they know that eventually they're not going to be there anymore. You're kind of just holding on to a sinking ship. Or you get the ones who go, okay, this is an opportunity. Like, this is happening for us, not to us. And I think this is where the languaging is getting a bit unstuck for me, because this is a gift, whether you see it or not. Our journey as a human is to move through the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And ultimately, for everyone, at some point in your life, the questions around meaning and purpose and depth are going to come up. It is a self-actualization draw. It is a draw that all of us hold. It's just whether we listen to it or we keep trying to push it at bay. And so what is typically labeled a crisis is actually an awakening to the self-actualization path itself. And how does this occur and how does it start to happen? Things in your life that you're holding to start to crumble. Things that brought the security, the safety, but they're not actually aligned with who you are, start to crumble. The systems that are working and operating in the workforce right now are starting to crumble because they are not in service. They are not working. If they were working, we wouldn't have this, because people wouldn't be completely miserable, looking for deeper meaning, looking for purpose, if they were already getting it, but they're not. So this is a systemic shift in the right direction. It might not feel like that. It might feel like everything you've built is about to crumble, and I'm not saying that it's not going to. Like, mine would have crumbled eventually, but I already crumbled it myself. There comes a point in time where you start to get a lot of soul slaps, which make it really, really difficult to keep going down a path that's not serving you. And that's what happened to me. And if it's happening to you and you already feel that, just trust that that is exactly what is supposed to happen. Things need to crumble before you rebuild. And so it's incredibly uncomfortable, but it's not a crisis. It is a very, very good thing. It is designed to make you see that the system that you have been relying on is not serving you anymore. And this is not to say that these systems will never serve again, but the way they're built right now, they're clearly not serving. They are clearly making people. And did you come here to be miserable? Like, that is the question. Did you come here to build success through misery? If this episode is resonating with you, then I want to invite you to my free webinar that is coming up on the 13th of April. And this is for women who are finding themselves in this void and really stuck with understanding what is next. You're stuck in the overthinking and the analysis paralysis. It's about understanding the patterns that are going on underneath the surface and how to really be guided through the inner compass to understand what your true north direction is. So I'm going to pop the link at the bottom of this episode if it calls to you. So I think this is an absolutely incredible thing. And it's also going to create change the other way, right? Because if you have your workforce start to go through a great millennial career crisis, you need to change, because they're your leaders. The millennials are the leaders right now. The other problem is the generations under are just probably not going to come in at all. So what's that going to do? It's going to force the systems to change. And many millennials still need to stay in these systems. The change needs to be made inside, and the change needs to be made outside in as well. Wherever you are suited to play and to be, that is exactly where you will be. But these systems need to change. Now, the interesting perspective as well is, why not Gen X? So, and why not boomers? Here's my perspective. The midlife crisis was always a labeled thing right back into boomer time. They always had these terms, midlife crisis. In fact, I remember my parents literally moving through theirs, but there were no outlets to actually do anything about it other than just keep going and stay in the path that you were on. It's there for all humans, because it's not even a crisis, it is an awakening. It is like your soul being like, there is more here. You are here to realize and to self-actualize, and that call for deeper meaning will hit people. It's obviously going to be louder for some who have come here more to play that game than to play the other game, but it happens to everyone. There is this disillusionment where you've worked your ass off for something that you were told would give you what you were looking for, which is ultimately, happiness within and love and abundance. And it might give you the money, but it certainly doesn't give you the deep fulfillment. And this is where the disillusionment comes in. It is not to say that these generations did not have that disillusionment. In fact, if you have heard of the book, I cannot remember her name, she was a palliative care nurse, and she spoke with people in palliative care and the biggest regret of the dying. So this was a book, like 10, 15 years ago. So this is the Gen X and baby boomers. What was your biggest regret? And it was that I didn't have the courage to live a life that was true to me. It's still there. It's there for everyone. It's just where we were in the shift in consciousness. There wasn't the opportunity, or you really would have had to have had a lot of courage to be able to break free. And so they just put up and shut up and sucked it in. We're not. Why? Because we don't have to anymore. It is changed. The world has changed. There are so many different avenues for us to create careers. We do not need to go down that traditional path anymore. And I know it really is a lot to feel like you're dropping it all, but you're never dropping it all. It is all part of the path. And for those of us millennials who have ended up in the systems, like myself, I absolutely had to be in that system in order to understand what is broken about it, to capture skill sets that I need, which help me in what I do now. And eventually my work is going to be working back into corporate. I still only work with women who are wanting to align their path and listen to their inner compass in order to create the next path, because that's the other thing. If you try and map another path out of this crisis without really truly tuning into who you truly are and what you truly, truly want, you're going to create the same disillusionment. And that is the risk of trying to create a path through a fear of all the messaging of where the workforce is going and all the changes and the shifts and where's my career going, and out of fear jumping into something because you're trying to escape. That is hands down the worst thing that you could do, because you're going to spend a lot of energy, money and time doing that, and two, you're just going to recreate what you're trying to get out of, which is a deep sense of disillusionment. I was just recalling the other day when my disillusionment hit me literally like a ton of bricks, where I couldn't come back from it. I was in a workshop. The only benefit of this one was we'd been flown business class to New York, so the business class was amazing. And then we went into these workshops and they were about chewing gum. And we were in this big room with all of the top bosses and senior leadership, and they all just start yelling at each other. The boss was yelling down the phone. Everything was tense. Everything was on eggshells. And I was just sitting there being like, it's fucking chewing gum. Like, are we being really serious right now that we're prepared to yell and abuse other people because you don't agree on a flavor combination for a piece of chewing gum that a consumer is probably not even going to give a shit about? And also, have you really just paid 3 of us to fly business class to sit and facilitate this bullshit? I couldn't even pretend to care. And I had to present something and it got fed back that I don't take it seriously enough. I'm like, oh my God, I really, no, you're right. I don't take it seriously enough. Like, the world is in strife and you guys want to sit here and spend all this money talking about the flavors of chewing gum and then yelling at each other. That was the peak. That was a peak of disillusionment for me. I'm like, what the fuck? I am not on this planet to talk about chewing gum and then yell at you because I don't agree with you. The only thing I enjoyed about that was the business class. Like, I'm not going to lie, that was amazing. So, have we been lied to? I mean, yes, like literally the planet, the conditioning is lies. It is all, dare I say, we're in a Truman Show. It goes back to the Industrial Revolution, where they created that in order to get, in essence, more tax from a double-incomed household. That then kicked that off, which kicked off schooling. And then from that, basically every piece of information in school is all designed to bring you into the paths that they need you to be in. And obviously the big call now is to get younger generations into AI and tech. But where does that leave the people that don't? I can tell you, I'm not tech, I'm not AI. I can't, no thank you, not for me. But here's what people are missing, because when they frame things as a crisis, then people start panicking, going, oh my God, I've got to upskill, this is where it's all evolving, I've got to keep up, and all of these things that you probably don't want to do because you're already disillusioned and going, this is all bullshit. And if you were really honest with yourself, the only reason you're still there is because it's a good paycheck and it's secure, and the world is particularly insecure at the moment, and there's a lot of chaos and there's a lot of movement and shaking. But whenever you frame things in a crisis lens, you put people in fear. And when you put people in fear, this is what they do. You will use your head to try and figure out the most logical way to keep yourself in safety and security. It is by design. And the only way out is through the fear, because I understand the fear. I've been there. I've had the fear. I've even had the fear to a degree where when I stepped out, I had a bit of a freak out. I wanted to go back in. I'm not denying that the pull is strong, but having spent a tiny bit of time recently back into something that mimicked the feeling of the disillusionment, it's safe to say I can't ever do it again. There are ways now. It's not easy because it's not going to be known to you. But if you are sitting in this place where you're feeling this disillusionment, you don't want to be in this position where you need to upskill and go further deep into something that you already don't want to be in. You might be in your head trying to figure out where, what to map, what to do. Or if you're in the camp where you genuinely, truly want that deeper purpose and meaning, that right there is where this movement is going to open up opportunities, because just because the generations before us did not do what is happening right now, and we might think it's environmental, but actually it's a gift because we're allowed to listen to that awakening. They weren't. They had it, but they weren't allowed to listen. We are. And the further that we go as a society into tech world, the greater that absolute call and drive from within is going to be for connection, for self-actualization, for depth, for meaning. It is going to get bigger. Wellness, all of these things, because we cannot exist just in tech. It's not how we are designed. We are designed to be in nature. Women are not designed to do as much as they are doing right now. This is why there is burnout. This is why there is total and complete disillusionment at the whole fucking thing, because we are not designed for it. The further we go into this tech dystopia, the more craving and the more need there's going to be for wellness, for human connection, for community-based things, for spiritual journeys, for depth, for purpose, for creativity. This is not going to go away. This is innately who we are. And if you find yourself in this where you are wanting that purpose, you are wanting that meaning, I'm not saying go and be a healer. That's definitely not what I'm saying, because I think that's another misstep where, at least from those who have moved already, including myself, not everyone's supposed to be a healer. There's many other skill sets that are required to build community. So that is my take on it. It is not a crisis. It is a gift if you use it. Some people are going to double down and push through because they don't want to let go of what they've built, and they're going to try and do the upskill and try and fit themselves into the mold of the tech dystopia. And if you're really genuinely interested in that, go for it. I'm not, AI frustrates me. If you are on the other camp where you know that's going to throw you even further into disillusionment, then there is going to be a big opening and a big craving for the journey that we can never avoid, the journey of self-actualization, of meaning, of purpose, of community, of connection, of love, all of these things. AI cannot replace bodily experience. It just can't. And this is where the shift is going to be. The shift as well is the systems. The systems themselves need to change from the inside out and outside in. I think there is a period of time where I do believe that people have put higher hopes in AI for what it's supposed to do initially. I think there's going to be a big cost cut to try and really, really streamline, but doing it too quick. And I believe it's going to fall over, and then they're going to be like, oh, fuck, we shouldn't have fired everybody. We'll see how that goes. I've been in so many restructures and so many company failures to see that, like, they don't know how to create change and shift, particularly the bigger corporations. They're actually very slow to change and they're slow to adapt. But I would be taking this as your sign that this is your opportunity to create what is aligned, rather than keep force fitting yourself into an industry that's just going to keep shifting and molding even further away from purpose, meaning, and depth. For those who are feeling that disillusionment, you know you can't continue, then I would invite you to my free webinar that is coming up on the 13th of April. The webinar is about understanding the patterns that are going on underneath the surface and how to really be guided through the inner compass to understand what your true north direction is. I'm going to pop the link at the bottom of this episode